Hello everyone, this is Nee Singh again, and I know it's been quite a while. I haven't created any video, and past from I think more than 1 month, I was coming live on the YouTube, and also uploaded some old live session onto this channel. As you know, my channel, old channel got deleted, and on this channel I couldn't upload the practical videos due to the copyright issue. So like from now onwards I'll try to upload some informative videos which can help you out to learn CyberArk and other PAM tools also. On this channel now I'll be focusing on CyberArk, Beyond Trust and other PAM tools plus your AWS and cloud related thing also. Like slowly I'll start uploading some informative, some theoretical videos which will help you out to understand the basics, and you can also get an idea if you want to make your career in this technology or not. So we'll be discussing some key points and what are the basics required to learn a technology, because as you know the basics, your basics should be strong if you are learning any technology, whether it's a PAM or AWS or cloud or endpoint security, etc. Anything, if you are learning, your fundamentals should be clear, then only you will be able to learn any technology. Okay, so in today's session I'll be going through these topics. First, we'll discuss about the like what is PAM, and I believe in most of the interview, some interviewer is asking this question like what is PAM and why it's required. Then scope of then we'll discuss in today's session we'll discuss little about CyberArk and its components, and some like reports also, where I'll be showing you like CyberArk again came leading in the PAM technology. Then other basics, like the basics, your fundamentals required to learn CyberArk or any other PAM technologies. If your basics are clear, your basics are strong, you can learn any PAM technology, whether it's CyberArk, Beyond Trust, or Archon, Delinea, etc. So let's start with the today's session. And also, I would like to request if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. And going forward, from now onwards, I'll start uploading some informative, some theoretical videos only, which you can see and understand the term. Like I know many of you wanted to switch your career in CyberArk, as CyberArk is a leading in PAM, and there are lots of like jobs in the market for CyberArk. Okay, so let's start with the first. What is PAM and what's the need for the PAM? So generally, if I talk about the PAM, is it's a privilege access manager, or you can say the management. And generally, it is used to manage your access. Like suppose in your organization you have a different team, like for a, let's say for example L1 team, L2, L3, and on the basis of their profile they are having access. Like L1 will have only read only access to a application, then L2 will have some more access than your L1, and similarly L3 will be having full access. And it depends upon the company also. Like in some company your L1 will be having full access, so it depends. But in we are talking in general terms. So in access, your PAM is managing your access, like right person having right access. And because like suppose a new joiner join your company, and in starting you cannot provide him full access to a application, whether it's CyberArk or a Windows server or any technology, you will not be providing full access, because he's new to the company and he may not be like knowing something. And if like suppose he's having all access, he can do anything. So where in that scenario your PAM comes into the picture, using PAM you can access, like you can manage your privilege access. Like privilege access means the uh, access, like which can just modify or install or do anything on a server or an application. So that's your PAM. And your privilege access management, using the PAM you can manage the access. You have lots of things in it, like the recordings and keystroke logs, etc. So in simple terms you can say PAM can be or used to organize the your privilege access to a application, and including some your video recordings for the audit purpose. And it you can just narrow down your access, and like right person having right access to a application. As you know, because we don't provide the full access or privilege access to a user who is new to the company or don't have much experience in the technology. Because as you know, there are several stacks sorry uh, attacks are going on in the market, and they are and after this COVID also there are lots of CyberArk attacks, and attacks has been increased. And all hackers, and they are scanning the network and just try to find out any loophole in your application or in your company. And if suppose there is a new joiner, you have provided full access, and there is some hacker who came to know like this, he's a new joinee and he has joined the company recently, so he'll be sending some information via mail or some any social media. So by mistake, if new joiners just click on it and provide all the information, then hacker can steal all the information, can hack his account, and then later on he can just get into the company's network and can access everything. So that's why the PAM is being used, and it is being used to isolate or the providing the relevant access to a relevant person, like right identity having right access to a application. And add on, it does have the video recordings and your keystroke logs, etc. That's why there is a, after the COVID, because everyone is working from home and we are connected to our Wi-Fi, are like having separate different internet server service provider. Because when we were working in the company, so we were using the company's internet, which is, and on the company's internet they have firewall and many other encryption, which is used to encrypt your network so that no outsider can access that network. But in your home, you might be using VPN or some like the AWS console or CyberArk remote access to access your applications. So more security is being added. So after this COVID, the demand for the PAM was increase, and you have seen a recent hike in the PAM jobs, whether it's CyberArk or Beyond Trust or Archon or Delinea, etc. So if in the interview it is asked, you can just simply say PAM is a privileged access management tool which can be used to provide the secure privilege access to a critical server or critical application, meeting the compliance requirement. And then you have additionally have your monitoring the in the like PSM records, your video recordings and keystroke logs for the audit purpose. Okay, what's the scope of CyberArk? And if like many of you are already working in CyberArk and some wants to switch their career, so scope of CyberArk is like as you know, CyberArk is booming, and after this COVID, the demand for the PAM tools have been increased. And scope, if you are active on the some Naukri or job sites or the LinkedIn, you might have seen there are lots of jobs for the PAM and including CyberArk. And on-site opportunities are have been increased. So if you want to start your career in CyberArk, so this is the right time. You can start learning CyberArk and can just grow your career. Okay. And also, this is the Gartner report, and I have copied this from the Gartner website only. And I believe, because as you know, my old channel got copyright issue, so that's why I'm saying this is for the information purpose only, and this was available on the public domain. So I have copied from the public domain only, like from the Google, and I just found this uh, image so that I can show you as per the Gartner report in this year 2022. CyberArk is the leading. You can see the CyberArk is the leading, and after that we have Archon, Delinea, Beyond Trust, One Identity, and Volux and Savient. So these are the different PAM tools. And from past few years, CyberArk is leading the market, and it's like coming on the top in the PAM technologies. But you can see Archon is also giving the tough competition to CyberArk. Okay, and also this is the link. If you want to see like the this Gartner report, you can see and you can just read out the information, or you can just Google it, and you can just Google it PAM Gartner report for 2022, and you can just get the information. Like yes, this is the Gartner report, and they have more information like why it was on the first. So they have some some parameters, and on the basis of that, they judge like which technology will be on the top. Okay. Okay, so this is the question, and I have received lots of mails and comments also on the YouTube channel, because there are some freshers and some from the different background, and they always ask me if I belong to a marketing company or a non-IT, can I learn CyberArk or any coding required in the CyberArk? So to so in this I'll be clearing your doubts also, and like suppose you are a fresher or you are from a different background, like different KPO or BPO or any background you are, so you can learn, anyone can learn CyberArk, and there are, as such, there are no coding background is required, because in CyberArk you have multiple things, like you have the implementation, you have full operations, like we then you have the your upgrade and etc, and then comes the development part also. So if you want to learn CyberArk and you don't have any coding background, still you can learn CyberArk, because in CyberArk we have the installation, and you can also design the architecture, and then onboarding the accounts, the CyberArk health check, and the operation part. In the operation we have lots of things other than the development. In most of the organization you will find a separate team is there for the developer. Like development team will be there who will be developing the automation or some script which is being used in CyberArk. But still, like if you have a good knowledge on this scripting, PowerShell, Python, Java, VB script, etc., so this will be add-on thing for you, like you already know this language, so when you after learning the CyberArk, you can use your skills to move into the development area, move to the developer and being a CyberArk developer, and also along with the implementation operation you can be a developer also, so that you can get a good package and the placement. But who don't have any coding background, or who want to switch their career from non-IT to IT, yes, they can switch, and there are lots of jobs in the market, and you can get a job in the big MNCs, Big Four, etc. For that, please watch this video till the end. If you are from the non-IT background or want to switch your career in CyberArk, because in today's session I'll be discussing the basics, which will help you out to learn CyberArk or any other technology. Whether you are learning the Archon, Delinea, AWS, Azure, or any other technology. So these terms which I am going to discuss in the coming slide will help you out to understand the technology, and also your basics will be clear, because if you will start learning CyberArk directly, you won't be able to get it, because there are some terms which are being used in CyberArk and other technologies also. And if you don't know about those terms, you will be like missing, because your fundamentals, if your fundamentals are clear, you can learn any technologies. So first, please work on your basics. Try to clear your basics, then you can start learning any technologies. Okay, so let's start with the first. I'll be going through the overview. So the CyberArk and in which technology it deals. So I believe many of you already know about the CyberArk, and many who are fresher or from the non-IT background, if they are watching. So this is for you. So please don't skip the video and watch till the end. And also subscribe to this channel. And because going forward it will I'll be uploading more like informative videos, which may help you out in understanding the other technologies, as well as if you want to learn AWS or Azure or move to cloud security as well as. Okay, so CyberArk does provide a PAM solution, and it does have the SaaS also, the cloud, like CyberArk Privilege Cloud is also there, and it does have the PAM and hybrid model also it does support. So in today's session, first we'll start with the PAM only. And in the coming session, I'll be discussing about the cloud also, like the architecture of your privilege cloud, and what are the components and how the workflow and etc. So your privilege access manager is like, and this includes your access management. You have the your video recordings, isolating of the session, and many more, because CyberArk does have a layer of security in the PAM solution, so that your critical data is secure. And suppose you want to store some data, so there are layer of security. You can see the firewall, it does have a VPN, authentication, access, and different encryption methods also. In the coming slides, I'll be discussing more on to these topics. So in the using the PAM solution, you can secure your, and you can provide more security to your critical information, critical servers. Like suppose in your organization you are having more critical servers, and on those servers you have some more information. So using your PAM solution, you can protect your server. Every information will be encrypted and it will be stored in the CyberArk Vault server. And you have different layers of security, firewall, and the session, like suppose you are connecting to your server, so the that session will be also isolated. And if you are using some critical accounts, your Windows administrator or root account, so the password also of those accounts can be managed easily. And you have in CyberArk PAM we have multiple policies. Like suppose if you are using an account that is a critical account, so after every use you can also have a policy. After every use, password can be changed. You can have one time password policy. And similarly you have the approval policy also, dual control. If like someone wants to access an account, so you can create the layer of approval in between, and that request will be sent out to your manager or the senior manager or the lead. After they approve your request, then only one user and respective user will be connecting or will be using that account. So we have the like firewall, different encryption methods, then the recordings, keystroke logs, password management, and master policies, and role based access. So that comes under your privilege session manager. And there are different tools, different components of the CyberArk which are being used for different functioning. or you can say the segregation of duties. Segregation of duties means there are several components in CyberArk PAM tool which are doing their own work. Like we have Vault server. Okay, let me move to next. So these are the your PAM tools, and we have other PAM tool also. So in today's session, I am just discussing the basics and some advanced like PAM tools. CyberArk does also have the cloud, the conjure, remote access, EPM, etc. But we'll be discussing the basics and the mandatory components. So these are the CyberArk components, and every components have its own functioning. So you can see the vault, the password vault web access, or you can say the PVWA, private arc client, and central policy manager, and privilege session manager. So these are the like first five are the mandatory components. If you want to install the CyberArk and want to use the operation, want to connect and want to manage your password, want to onboard the accounts. So first five components are the mandatory components, whether you are installing on the on-prem solution or installing on the cloud. So these are the mandatory components. So I'll be focusing more on these mandatory components because if you are good with the mandatory, the basic components, then you can crack any interview also, because in the interview they mostly focus on these components only. Because in every organization you will not see the PTA. This is the PTA and this is the PSMP, or you can say the Privileged Session Manager for SSH or OPM. In it depends company to company if they are using these components or not, because it does have you need to procure a different license if you want to use this. But first five components are the mandatory components. If you want to implement the CyberArk environment, want to install the CyberArk in your infrastructure. So one by one, I'll be discussing about the components. So let's start with the first component. Okay, and this is the architecture. So you can see this is the your primary vault, or you can say the production vault. This is the pure production vault, primary data center, and this is your secondary data center, or you can say the DR site. So in your production also you can have your PVWA, CPM, PSM and PTA. PTA is optional, but these three PVWA, CPM and PSM is mandatory component. If you don't have PTA also, it's fine. And similarly you can have your PVWA, CPM and PSM and PTA in the secondary data center, which you can say it's a standby server, a backup server. When your primary data center is going down, automatically this DR vault server will become active, and DR vault will become as a primary. It will be promoted as a primary vault. So you can have the switchover or the failover, and the failover can be manual and the automatic also. In the coming session, I'll be discussing those in detail. So this is a basic architecture, and your PTA is again optional, but these are the mandatory, your primary vault, PVWA, CPM and PSM and DR. So these are the mandatory components. And also if you don't have separate components for your DR, it's totally fine. You can always use your primary components. You can always point this primary component to the DR, because in company to company it depends, they don't want to have the separate component for your DR site also. Okay, let's first discuss about the vault server. As and also one more thing, the vault I'm referring to, where you can say it's a CyberArk digital vault or enterprise vault or simply vault, you can say it's all same. Different terms are being used by every person. So vault is the critical server of the CyberArk, and it's the, you can say, the hub. Every your this component, your PVWA, CPM and PSM and every component just communicate to your primary vault only, because every your information is getting stored on the vault server. And encryption, different layers of encryption. You have firewall and VPN and different authentication method you have in the vault, and every your data will be encrypted. Let's understand with the example. Like suppose in a bank locker you have a safe. If you have have a locker in the bank, so that locker is being opened using your key. You will be having one key, and one key will be there with your bank manager, or the manager, or the, you can say, the who manage the complete your bank. So one key will be there with him. So after applying both the keys at the same time, then only you will be able to open your locker. So similar, you can correlate with the vault server. It's also the same. There are different encryption methods are being used to open the safe where you have put your important information. So different mechanism, encryption and decryption mechanisms are being used to provide the extra security. So in simple terms, a vault server, you can say it's one of the critical server of the CyberArk, on which you have you can store your information, your passwords, and some other important or critical information. And this is the main server of the CyberArk. And it does have several layers of security: firewall, encryption, segregation of duties, and session encryption, etc. Okay. Next is, this is a private arc client, and you using this private arc client, you are accessing this digital vault, because digital vault is a console, and using some client or some web application only you can access an application, whether it's CyberArk or any other technology. So in CyberArk, private arc client is the client which is used to access your vault information. And this is a agent, you can say it's a agent you need to install on the vault server. And also you can install on other components also, like on the PSM server, PVWS, CPM server, you can install it. So it requires 1858 port to communicate to the vault server. So suppose you want to install on your base machine, or on a jump server or any server. From that server, 1858 port should be open to the vault server, and then you can install it and you can use it. You can log in, and it does have different layers of authentication. Like it does have the your private arc authentication, which is the default CyberArk authentication. You have LDAP, PKI, etc. So these are the different authentication you can use to log into your vault server. So this is an agent. Okay, moving to the next component. So this is also one of the main component of the CyberArk, and this is a password vault web access, or you can say a PVWA. So in the previous slide, we discussed about the private arc client, and now this is a PVWA. So you can access your vault using PVWA also, because it's a web interface. And when you are installing the PVWA, you need to have a web URL, and using that web URL only you can access your vault server. So there are different methods of accessing your vault. Either you can access using the private arc client, or you can access with the PVWA server, or you can say a web interface. Okay. Next is again one of the main component, which is the CPM, or you can say the Central Policy Manager. And this component is generally used to manage your passwords. Like suppose you have your administrator or any account in CyberArk. So using this component only, you can rotate the password, you can verify the password of an of that particular account. And CPM is also being used to like for your auto detection. Like auto detection is also onboarding. You can automate your workstation and laptop or desktop accounts using the auto detection, and that is run by using the CPM, the password manager user, which is the CPM user. And then you have your auto discovery also. CPM scanner service is being used to run the auto detect or your auto discovery. And again, that is auto discovery is again like using that you can scan your domain and also you can onboard the Unix accounts. That I'll be discussing in the like coming session. Okay. So in simple terms, CPM, you can say it's a password management component which is used to rotate the password, verify the password of an account. It can just automatically can change the password depending upon the policies you have configured in CyberArk. If you want to generate a password, it does have the password complexity also. You can define a password complexity, like there will be these number of characters, 12 characters, one uppercase, one lowercase. So you can define that as per your company's policy. And using this, you can just manage the password of an account. Next is your PSM. So it's also one of the main component of CyberArk, Privileged Session Manager. And this component is generally used to establish a connection to the target server. Like establishing a connection means, like suppose you are connecting, you have a RDP protocol, you are connecting to a machine, a different server using a RDP protocol, or if you are connecting to the your Unix, you are using SSH connection, SSH protocol. So similarly, your PSM, you can say PSM is a privileged session manager, or you can also say it's a jump server. Using this, you are connecting to a target server, and then you are having your the video recordings, and you have your keystroke logs. So this will record your complete session, and it will have your video recordings. And that video recordings it will be storing on the vault server in a recording safe, and as per the policy you can watch that recording for the audit purpose. Like so suppose a user connected to a server and that user deleted something from that server, so you can always watch that recording and you can identify which user logged into that server and what they have deleted. So using the PSM you can manage that thing also. It's also one of the main component and mandatory component of CyberArk. Okay, so moving to next. So this is the PSMP, or you can say a proxy PSM server, and or you can say the privileged session manager for SSH, because it's a Linux based device. Using this PSMP, you can connect to a Unix server only. But using your this PSM, if you are using the PSM, you can connect to a Windows or Unix or a database, any account you can connect. But this PSMP is a proxy server. You can just connect to the Linux devices only, because it's meant for the Linux server only, or you can say the Unix servers only. And you need to use a putty or any other third party tool to connect to the PSMP, and this will be your Unix server only. And why this PSMP is being used? Because this is a what we say the optional component, and this is not the mandatory component. This is generally being used because in your organization you will see there will be a Unix team who love to work in a CLI only, command line interface. They don't like the GUI, like your user interface, just like the Windows server we have, like your desktop, Windows desktop. But some Unix team, they just love to work on the command line interface. For them only, generally we have the PSMP, so that they can directly log into the command line interface. They don't need to use the Windows or your graphic user interface. And again, you can have your different authentication methods also in the PSMP. You can use your AD or your domain accounts to connect to the PSMP server, and then you can connect to the target account. So that's your PSMP, or you can say the PSM for SSH or a proxy server. Okay, so what is OPM? OPM is also one of the optional component. this is not mandatory, and it's not mandatory to have this component. And this is also a Linux based. Using this OPM you can manage your permission, like the access. You can control and monitor privilege access, like you have super users, super accounts on your Unix server root account, or you want, if you have created some accounts also and given the admin privilege, so you, using your OPM, you can manage that permission. You can restrict your user to run some commands. So using OPM you can just achieve that. Like suppose there is a root user can access and can do anything on the Unix server, but using the OPM you can restrict the root user also to run to not to run some specific commands, some delete or some kill command. You cannot like your root user cannot run if you have restricted that using your OPM component. It's a on-demand privilege manager component, and it's the optional component. Don't It's not a mandatory component. Okay, this is your also a optional component, not the mandatory, but you should have an overview. In the interview they may ask this question and you can always say it's a overview. I have overview idea of the that this component, you can say in that way. So PTA is a privileged threat analytics, and it's totally based on the artificial intelligence. And using this component, you can just uh, onboard the accounts automatically. It can just change the password of an account, like invoking the CPM. It can just invoke the CPM and change the password. And also you can just terminate the session also. It can just monitor your network if any suspicious activities is going on in the network. So using the PTA you can just perform this function, because it's one of the CyberArk component totally based on your artificial intelligence. It does have its algorithm. Using this algorithm, it can scan the your network, can tap into the your network using this DPI technologies, and it can just detect if any suspicious activities or some attacks are being going on in the network. So this is also the one of the PTA, like the component of CyberArk, but not the mandatory component, because it requires a different license for installing it. So it depends upon company to company if they want to install it or not. Okay. Okay, so now I'll be starting with the basics, very basics, which will help you out to understand or to learn any technology, whether it's CyberArk or any other PAM technologies. If you have a good idea on the basics, you can learn any technologies. Okay, what is firewall? In I believe if you are from the BTech background or BSc, in school days also, I believe something you have heard about the firewall. So firewall, you in simple terms you can say providing an extra security and the encryption method between your communication. Like suppose you want to communicate to a server. So in between your communication there will be a firewall where your the communication will be encrypted, so that no other hacker or no other person can view that communication, cannot view. So that's in the simple terms you can say it's a firewall. The you are having a extra security in between your communication. Your communication will be encrypted so that no one can just access that information. Okay, and there will be different types of firewall. So we don't know, need to go in the depth, because there will be, I think, hybrid firewall or application, or I don't remember the types of, but you should have at least what a firewall is and why it is being used. Because when you want to implement the CyberArk, you need to have a discussion with the firewall team and need to describe about what ports, what communication you should open from the CyberArk server to the target servers, so that they can access. So the communication can happen between the CyberArk and the other application, your target servers. And CyberArk, what CyberArk does, uh, it's a installation thing. So when you are installing the CyberArk Vault, it does just convert the Windows firewall to CyberArk hardened firewall, and it just deletes some unused files and the disable some services, and only allow the communication using this 1858 port only. You can communicate to the vault server using 1858 port only. So, in let's summarize this in simple terms. You can say firewall can be a device which you can use to communicate, which you can use to securely communicating between the servers and the applications. The communication is happening with the over encrypted channel, so that no third party or no one can just see that communication, what's going on between it. Okay. So this is your encryption and the decryption. And encryption, let's understand first what's an encryption is. So encryption means you are like, suppose you have a document. Let's take an example of any document you have. So you are converting that document in such a format so that no one can understand that format. It will be some encrypted using some third party tool or some encryption. You just converted that your information to a code so that no other person can directly understand what it is. So that's your encryption. And whereas decryption is, you are converting that decryption in a readable format so that we can read that in a, it will be in a plain text and we can read that. You might have seen the these terrorist or something based movies, in the Bollywood movies or other movies, Hollywood movies. They are using some codes, like someone is calling someone and they are using some codes to give their information, so you can correlate with that. So that's your encryption. And there are two types of the encryption we have. First is the symmetric and another is the asymmetric in encryption. So in the symmetric in encryption, there is a single key is used to encrypt and decrypt the data. But in the asymmetric encryption, there are two keys are being used to encrypt and decrypt the data. So in CyberArk, these are the two keys. AES 256 is the encryption key which is used to encrypt your data, and it's a symmetric encryption. And RSA 2048 is a asymmetric encryption, which where you use two keys to encrypt and decrypt your data. So that's your encryption and decryption. And in CyberArk or in any other technology, you should have an overview on this so that you can understand if in any interview or any discussion, if someone is using these terms. Okay, so Windows Server overview, because most of the your CyberArk and PAM technology is totally based on the Windows only. So you should have a good idea about the Windows, how to use that, some commands, how to define an IP address, and what are the users policy, local policy, how to ping a server, and what are some basic understanding you should have at least, so that because most of the errors are originated from Windows only. So if you have a good idea about the Windows server, like where which policy I can find there, what is the IP and what are the overview, like overview of Windows server. So it will help you out to understand any technology much faster, and you can also troubleshoot that easily if you have a good idea on the Windows server. Okay, and these are the different Windows server, and latest one is 2019. Okay, next is the Unix server. So similarly, you should have an overview knowledge of the Unix server because it's a CLI, command line interface, and it's totally different from your Windows. So at least you should know some basic commands like how to log into a Unix server, the how to change the password, how to move to one path to the another path, and what how to check the configuration, how to copy, how to move. So at least that basic knowledge you can have, so that it will be easy for you to learn, because in CyberArk or in other PAM technology, you need to onboard the Unix account also. So if you have a good idea about the Unix, so you can easily onboard those accounts, and you can also troubleshoot the issue if the issue is coming from your Unix servers. And there are different for different flavors, or you can say the types of the Unix or Linux. It's HP, Solaris, AIX, Sun OS. So these are the different flavors, different types of the operating system, Unix operating system. And this does have some little command difference. So you should have only the basics. I'm just talking about the basic thing. Just go with the basic, try to learn the some basic commands, how to change the password, login, and how to move and copy. That's it. Because everything is done using a command only. You cannot directly go to copy paste and something, just like the Windows server. You need to use the command. CP command is used to copy your one file to another path. CP. Okay, so overview of VMware. So VMware is a workstation, you can say, or you can say it's a box which is generally used to create the virtual servers. So if you want to create a virtual server means you are installing a software in a box and creating a server. So this is you can say the fundamental. This is a box, and where you can create a Windows or Unix servers. So in most of the organization, VMware is being used, where you deploy. You need to. This is a setup file. You just need to install on a server on a machine. You can install it, and inside that you can just create the virtual server inside that box. So there are different types of servers, like the physical servers, which does include your physical, the hardware, and plus software. So those are considered as a physical servers. You might have seen the warehouse in the movies also. You have seen there is a warehouse where you find the servers, physical servers, and virtual servers like installing a software you have, and just like the it can just give the performance just like your physical servers. So those you can consider as a virtual. And on your VMware box you can install the Windows, Mac operating, and also your Unix. Okay, moving to next, privilege accounts. So privilege account is a, you can say in simple terms, privilege accounts which have more permission. Let's take an example of your laptop. You have an administrator account. So that is considered as a privilege account. If someone gets the password of that account, he can just install or delete anything on that machine onto that server. So those are considered as a privilege accounts, which have more privilege, more permission to install, delete, or upgrade anything. In your production, you will be having the administrator account or the root account, which are considered as a privilege accounts. Okay. Okay. So domain controllers. So domain controller, generally you can say you are managing the access. It's a centrally manage the access. Let's understand with the example. Suppose you join a company, and first thing what they do, they just create your ID on the domain controller, and then they just provide you access by adding to some security groups. So they will be having some security groups, some groups on the domain controller. Like suppose you want to access to some application, so you will request to some respective team, they will add you in a respective group, then only you will get the access. So you can say you are managing the access, centrally managed access from the domain controller. And your AD is a database where you have the all the information, like your user information. If you have some, you have laptops, and you have made that laptops a part of domain, so that information is also there on your AD. And there are different types of domain controllers. One is the read-only domain controllers, RODC, and another is writable domain controllers. In RODC, you cannot modify or cannot delete or add something because it's a read-only domain controller. You can only read the information. But in the writable domain controller, you need to you can just modify or add or delete anything because it's a writable domain controller. So in every organization, you may see they are using read only and writable domain controller also, because for some application they want a user to only read the information. In that case, they use RODC, read only domain controller. So it's also important because in CyberArk or in any other application beyond Trust or AWS, you need to integrate your domain with the application so that you can access that application using your domain account, your AD account. So that's why it's most important, because in for every application you will be integrating your domain with the domain controller so that you can manage the access, centrally manage access. Okay. Okay. So ports. So port number, as you say, the communication happening between the two servers, it's happening with via port only. You can say it's a virtual point where your network communication start and end. So these are the some common ports which are being used in CyberArk and mostly in every organization except your this vault and this your SIM, LDAP, SMTP. These are the common ports which are being used in every application. So your vault use 1858 for the communication, your SIM use 514, LDAP 66. So similarly, these are the ports which are being used by mostly every applications. And you should have an idea about these ports, so that because in the interview also sometimes they ask about the port also, like what are the ports being used for this communication. So these are the common ports. You should know these ports for the communication, because your and also one more important thing, in the interview also they ask this question: can we just use a customized port? They say we don't want to use this 514 or 636 port. So yes, you can use the customized ports also, like if your company is having some customized ports like 67 or any port they are having. So yes, you can use that, but for that you need to do some manual changes onto your application side also, and on your server side also, so that you can establish a connection using a customized port number. Okay, so this is also one of the advanced topic, and you should have an overview knowledge of what is a SOAP and REST API. So SOAP, you can say it's just a protocol, and it's also using the SOAP you can also call the API, and you can also just communicate, like suppose the communication is happening between two server using some API, so that can be done using the SOAP and REST API both. But the main difference between the SOAP and REST API is SOAP is little slow than the REST API, and in REST API you have the multiple format, like it just support different format. You can get your output in JSON, in XML, HTML, etc. But in the SOAP protocol, it just use only your this XML and HTTP. So that's the main difference, and also the speed. Okay, let's understand with this example. So you can consider SOAP is just like an envelope, and it requires more bandwidth, more work on both like opening and closing. So that's your SOAP. Whereas REST is just like a postcard, and it's very lightweight and simple to and easier to update, and it's much faster than the SOAP protocol. So that's the main difference between SOAP and REST API. Okay. Okay. So moving to DNS. So what is a DNS? So DNS can be defined as a domain name system. And generally, what does a domain name system does? Like suppose you have a google.com. So that's your domain, and .com is your extension. So DNS, because your machine understand the IP address only. It doesn't understand this URL like secappslearning.com. So your machine, your system, your computer will understand only the DNS, this IP address only. So every application have the IP address also along with the URL or the DNS. So DNS is generally used to convert your this like suppose let's take an example of SecApps Learning to IP address so that your machine can understand what's the request and from where it's coming. So that's the DNS, and it is required in the CyberArk and other technologies also, because in your production you will be having some URL, and you require a DNS to convert that URL to a IP address, so that your server and the machine can understand, your application can understand that what's the requirement and what's the message. So that's why DNS is being used. It translates, you can see, human readable domain name to machine readable domain, readable IP address. It can be any IP. Every machine has a different IP address. Okay. So what is a cluster? Cluster can be defined as a group of servers, because there are more than one servers in the cluster. And if I talk about in context of CyberArk, it does have a high availability or the cluster vault manager, in which it has an active and the passive server. So that's your cluster. Active passive means suppose your active server is going down. So automatically your passive, the standby server will come online and no user will be impacted. So you can say, let's take an example in simple terms. You are using google.com. So for the google.com, there will be the number of servers. It cannot be like just like they are having single server for google.com. It's hosted somewhere. So they have multiple and number of servers. If one server is going down, automatically another server will accessing your request. So that's you can correlate with the active and passive. If your active server is going down, your passive server will become active, and it will start responding to your request. So that's the actual meaning of the cluster. Okay. Local group policy and the domain group policy. So what's the difference and what are these policies? So local group policy means the which are locally, which are just for your computer only, for that server only. So that is considered as a locally. Whereas domain group policy is the policy which is created on your domain, on your AD, on your domain controller, and that is being pushed to other servers. Or you can just push that policy to your PC, your laptop, or server. So that is your domain group policy. You can just take an example, like suppose you have your personal computer, personal system, laptop. So that is a local group policy, because it's not connected to any domain. it's connected to the work group. So that's why the policies related only locally only onto that your personal laptop. But whereas you have your company's laptop, and your company's laptop is connected to your company's domain, and you might have seen there are many policies are pushed on your company's laptop automatically, and you need to restart to update those policies. So that is considered as a domain group policy. And in CyberArk and in other technology beyond trust or any AWS, this is being used because you need to make necessary changes on the locally also and sometimes domain also. If something is like you have disabled something on the domain group policy, so you need to request, you need to reach out to the respective team and ask them to just create some exception or disable this policy. So you should have a overview knowledge on this policy and these terms. So that's why I'm discussing these terms, so that if you heard these terms in while working in CyberArk or in any other technology, you will understand what these terms are. Next is your work group and domain, and what's the difference between the work group. So previously we discussed about the local and the your domain group policy. So similarly, work group is your personal system is a part of the work group, and that work group doesn't have any centralized access. Doesn't have, because it's only your system only. If you are making changes, your that changes will reflect on your personal laptop only. It will not replicate to other servers. So whereas domain means you have a centralized access. You can just push some push if like server is connected to domain, you can push some policies. You can manage the access to that server using some security groups. So that's your domain. So use in simple terms, you can say work group is a single system, and that you have the local policies and etc. And that is related to single machine only. Whereas your domain, it does have a group, like you can connect several applications, several servers to a domain. And if you want to manage something, you can manage using your domain, your security group, some policies you can create on domain. You can compare with the your personal system and the your company's laptop. You will understand the difference between domain, and you can also go to the respective your this PC properties, and you can find out whether your what are the domain, and your system is connected to work group or domain. Okay, so that's all for the discussion, and these are the some basic terms which are used and which we discussed in this session. So I would just recommend you, please go through the basics before learning any technology, whether it's CyberArk or Beyond Trust or Proofpoint or AWS or cloud, anything you are working on. So just clear your basics, then you can learn any technologies. And also again I'm giving a disclaimer. So all the resources which I am using in this video were available on the public domain. I just get those information from the Google itself, and I am using this information in this video. And I'm this channel is not an affiliate. I'm not doing any marketing of the CyberArk software. This is for the information only. I am just sharing my knowledge with you, so that you can just understand about a technology, whether it's a CyberArk or any other PAM technology or any cloud technology as well, as if you want to learn. And also I'll be giving my credit to Slidesgo, because using this Slidesgo only I am able to make this PPT, and it's very useful. You can just use this Slidesgo, and they have different templates and themes, so you can use in your while making a PPT, just like a professional one. So these were the some topics we discussed today, and I hope you will like this video and subscribe to this channel, because these topics, these basics introduction will help you out to learn any technology, whether it's any PAM tool, Beyond Trust, Change Auditor, or Proofpoint, or AWS, etc. And if you like this video, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed. And I would be creating now more informative videos which will help you out to understand. At least the I can just give you the information, because now I cannot make any practical videos, as again I'll be getting some copyright issue. So that's all from my side. If you have any doubt, you can comment on this channel, and also don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. So thank you guys for joining, and have a good day. Thank you very much.